Seriously, how cool are we? Not me, but our honorees. And our next one is probably one of the coolest Iranian American cats in Washington, D.C. He's an academic, he's an author and an expert in Mideast policy. You've seen him on every network talking about the Middle East and analyzing it. He has advised some of the most influential men and women in Washington, D.C., including Hillary Clinton and Richard Holbrooke. Here's a little video about him. Vali Nasr.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I have to say, Paradise is not an easy act to follow, but I'll try. Let me begin by saying that it's truly an honor and a pleasure to be able to share this podium with friends and colleagues in this very special event, which not only celebrates the achievements of the Iranian American community, but also underscores the extent to which PAAIA as an organization has worked hard to bring it to light. It is also immensely gratifying for me to be speaking to so many young Iranian Americans who are the next generation in this community, and to be able to talk to them about where this community has come from, where it's heading, and what are the challenges that are before them. In preparing for my remarks, I reflected a lot on this, and I thought that if I were to think back to when I was their age, our community had to deal with many difficult issues of identity, with how to fit into American society after the Iranian Revolution, and how to balance our commitment to the past, to our roots in Iran, with an uncertain future at that point in time. I would think that for the younger generation, things are a bit easier, at least in this sense. That is not to say that time has faded their attachment to their roots, but that is brought to them certain clarity. At least it's much more clear that what does it mean to be an Iranian American. Now, our community does not need any encouragement to be self-congratulatory and to tout our talents. Of course, we are high achievers. What else we would have expected of ourselves? But in reality, this community's achievement, if we are to paraphrase a famous quote of Thomas Edison about genius, is only 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If there is a value that defines the Iranian American community, I would think it is hard work and commitment to excellence. For the younger generation, that means in education as well as in workplace. These are qualities that may seem self-evident, and they have served us very well at the individual level. But it is important that we think that going forward, they should define us as a community. And that, I think, is the most important mission of this community and also the mission of this organization, PAAIA, in terms of defining who we are. If I were to reflect on my own career, the easy advice I would give to younger generation is to study hard and work hard, to choose things that you have a passion for and choose them well, and always have in mind what contribution you want to make. It's important that you choose a career not in terms of how far and how high it goes, but also how enjoyable the ride would be. And when you get to the top, you will think that it was worth it. It was the right path, and in getting there, you gave as much as you got. My generation thought of how to survive after the devastating calamity of a revolution, and then find its place in America. Your generation has gone beyond these issues. Your generation ought to be thinking about how to leave its mark on America. We came, we stayed, we grew roots, whether we liked it or not. Now we should make sure that everyone else in America knows that we are here and what we stand for. The path I took is not a conventional one. I started as an academic. I studied political science and international relations. I was committed to a life of the mind, of teaching, research, and pursuit of knowledge. Then life took unexpected turns. I built on that early career other ones to become a public intellectual, a consultant, an advisor, and for a time, a diplomat. What I learned along the way is that you can plan your career and you can plan your life when you're young. And then life has its own plans for you. It can summon you to do other things. When that summon comes, you have to be willing to answer, to walk through the door that has been opened. And then you have to have the wherewithal to do what it takes to succeed. For me, that summon came when the then Senator Hillary Clinton asked me to join her campaign to direct her Iran and Pakistan foreign policy teams, which then led to working very closely with her and her team on these issues at the State Department. Again, if I were to reflect on that in terms of an advice to the younger generation, I say that everything that you do today in your studies and in your early career, it is not just to prepare you for the career that you have planned on, but also for the one that you have not planned for and that may summon you, the one you actually may end up living. Now, let me also turn to another important issue that I would like to talk to the younger generation about. We are here to recognize the accomplishments of the Iranian American community, to pass the torch of success to the younger generation. That is important. But it is also important to note that with success comes responsibility. And there is another torch that we must pass as a community, and that is the obligation to give back, to serve, to be engaged in public life, as citizens of this country and also as public servants. This too is an important value that should define our community. We should be known not just for accomplishments as individuals, but for what we give as a community. I know that many among us give generously to Iranian causes, to help the needy in Iran, or to support our own community here in America. This is important, and we should continue to do it. But I'm talking about a different giving, to the society and community and country where we live and in which we prosper. All Iranian Americans have two homes. There is the home of our memories and imaginations, the faraway homeland of our roots, of our identity, and of our beliefs. It's a very big corner of all of our hearts. And then there is America, the home where we live, the everyday reality of our lives, where we will ultimately find our personal and professional fulfillment, where we can leave our stamps on events large and small, where we will ultimately be defined as who we are by what we do. Iranian Americans have prospered in America. They have prospered because of its open society and economy. And they have benefited from the fundamental belief in this country that every man and woman can go as far as his skills and efforts will take him, freed of the shackles of his or her roots and faith. It is a measure of us as individuals and as a community what we will do to bolster the very attitudes that helped us and provided us with opportunities to do so well in this country. There are many ways to give back. One I think is most important to speak to today in this city to the younger generation is that of national service, doing the work of government, Congress, military, the machinery that runs this country. Now, we saw this embodied in the exceptional careers of Ramin and Faryar, who were interviewed here earlier. There are many more younger Iranians who are embarking on this path. I met many at the universities where I taught, young Iranian Americans who entered government service, including some who were lieutenants in the Army and the Marine Corps. And while I was in government, I had the privilege of working closely with several young Iranian Americans at the State Department, at White House, at the Pentagon, at USAID, and in Congress. I also had occasion to meet young British Iranian, French Iranian, German Iranian, Swedish Iranian, and Australian Iranians who were working for their governments. When I was at the State Department and I worked on the Afghanistan-Pakistan Bureau with Ambassador Holbrooke, at one point there were 4 Iranian Americans working in that office, which is then a very frontal policy-making office at the State Department. As Ramin mentioned, that is no small feat. And it provides both a perspective into what we have accomplished as a community in this country, but also what America has meant to Iranian Americans. I will always remember the expression on the face of Egypt's foreign minister, where Ambassador Holbrooke introduced 2 out of the 4 people on his team who were in the room as members of the Iranian American community, and then kept going in explaining their backgrounds. Knowing what the foreign minister was probably thinking, my colleague and I were hoping that Ambassador Holbrooke would cut the description short. But he had different ideas in mind. Afterwards, he told us that is not the way we do things in this country, meaning there is no bias based on heritage, and you are as good as the service that you provide. To me, that day in that room was a learning moment. It was also a underscoring of the burden and the responsibility that we have as a community towards this country. Let me say that to the many young Iranian Americans who are thinking about their future careers, let me say a few words about why government service matters and why you should potentially consider it seriously. Now, I know I'm not going to win a popularity contest with many in the older generation in the audience. I know what your parents tell you about becoming doctors and engineers and lawyers. Far be it for me to contradict that sage advice, but let me nevertheless make the case. You should consider government service, first, because it is a rewarding career. It is called a service for a reason. And in so doing, in responding to the call for government service, you undertake the task to dedicate your life to something with a sense of mission and with the expectation of gratification that comes with it. There are careers and jobs that we will choose, but there are also careers and jobs that will choose you, and even some that will need you, and government service is definitely one. In my own case, I would not have joined the government were it not for the belief that in this particular time, those in the halls of power in Washington would need deep knowledge of the Middle East and South Asia. Secondly, Secondly, working for the government is a worthwhile education, one that goes far beyond what you may learn in school or in other jobs. There is a reason why people who have worked in government are in high demand in the private sector. The on-the-job training, the administrative knowledge, the people skill, and the connections that you make in government work will serve you well in whatever course you take inside or outside of government. Thirdly, Iranian Americans as a community and as individuals have particular interest in this country, and they want their views to be reflected in government, whether it is making Nowruz nationally recognized, relaxing visa restrictions on Iranian students, or addressing issues of bias and equity that faces other communities as well. It is a fact that we have achieved more when there are Iranian Americans inside the government than when they're not. No community can demand attention or action without participating in the system. Fourth, the Iranian American community will bring a unique perspective that will benefit government in this country in every branch and in every level. And by that, I do not mean just knowledge of Iran, although I'm sure that there are many instances that that would be very important and very useful. I mean much more broadly, the unique experience of this community as a whole, as a migrant community, facing at once unique and universal challenges, having figured out its own way of solving them, and then doing so successfully, such as integrating into America, excelling in its society and economy, forging common bonds with other communities, maintaining ties of culture, family, and friendship across this vast country, are all things that are part of our individual and community experience, a wisdom that all of us will do well to impart on public service. And let us not forget that this is not the first time in the long history of Iran that Iranians have been forced to leave their country voluntarily or involuntarily and have settled in other lands. And in virtually every case, history has recorded that they have marked their influence on government and politics wherever they have settled. And similarly, the history of this country is replete with examples of other migrant communities who came before us and ultimately found their place in the mosaic of American life by participating in national service. Iranian Americans can aspire to no less, and they will achieve much more by having their say in the US government. Thank you very much, and it's wonderful being here. Thank you. Thank you.